Let's start. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मद् आचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ॐ सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा कार्पण्यदोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेतः यश्श्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधीनां त्वां प्रपन्नम् ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविर्आविर्मएधि वेदस्य माणिस्तः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासि अनेन अधीतेन अहोरात्रां संददामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारम् अवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रम् अक्षिभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गे स्तुष्टुवाग्वं स्वस्तिनूभिः स्वस्ति देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति न साक्षयो अरिष्टनेमि स्वस्ति न बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिकृष्टं गिरेरिव उर्दो पवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमवितम् अस्मि द्रविणं गुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Happy Sunday everyone, good to see you guys. We have a new person who's joined, Archana. She is the sister of one of our Saturday classmates. She's joining in all the way from the US. So Anita, you're not the only one now who joins in from the US. All right, okay. So Tuina is just settling the Vedant in because we don't have a helper. So I'll get started in the meantime. So just to do a recap, right? Where were we? We're reading chapter 2 right now, and we're up to Shlok number 45, right? So far it's become, we've talked a bit about, in Shlok 2.4, we talked about Karma Yogi. And that so let me break this down, right? Karma is duty and yoga is connection. And all of us are people who are born with responsibilities, and we have duties to carry out in this world. Karma yogi is connecting to Bhagwan, connecting to the universal energy through our duty, right? We cannot escape duty in this life. Uh, in that shlok, they also talked about how life or spirituality should not be considered ritualistic. For a lot of us, it's become like, oh, we have duty, so every day in the morning we will burn the agarbatti, we will pray to God, and we're done for the day. Then whatever happens in the day happens in the day. But he's saying no, that's not the type of person we want to be, and that person does not cut his karma at all. He does not kill his sanskaras. In fact, carries on more prarabdha. Our job is to be a karma yogi where we bring spirituality in our daily life, in our daily duty. That's what a karma yogi is. We have to change the way we do our duty or approach our duty in a way so that we don't carry bondage. It is and the bondage happens because we get attached to the consequences of an action. We chase results, we chase desires, and all of that creates bondage, which creates this unending cycle of life and suffering. And the way, and because all of us have had this baggage in the past, that's why we are born, that's why we have this life for us to carry out our duty. But we are also very, very fortunate because we are born in the form of humans. And we're also fortunate that as humans we have this one tool that distinguishes us from animal is this sharpened intellect. But right now, we use that sharpened intellect only to chase desires, chase results, chase things, and then get attached to it, right? And we talked a little bit about last time about how the mind follows the intellect. So intellect is the leader. Intellect decides what you should do, and then the mind will follow that. If that leadership does not come from the intellect, the mind will follow the senses. It'll just chase whatever desires, whatever pleasures, likes, dislikes that are being fed through the sense objects, right? So our job is to work on our intellect, because intellect is the leader which will guide the mind. And the way we do it, we talked about it in 2.42, is sharpening the intellect to become a business minded intellect, so that our intellect always drives us to work for purpose, not for pleasure. Our intellect always helps us decipher between purpose and pleasure so that we can chase purpose, not pleasure. Yeah, so the word is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Sorry, I'm stammering a lot today. I don't know why. But it's Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Vyavasayat means business mind. It's a business minded intellect.
An intellect that knows its business.
Sorry, there's someone trying to. Yeah. So that's business minded intellect. And our entire job as karma yogis, we all are anyways carrying out our duty. Our job is to use this sharpened intellect to be able to carry out the duty with the right purpose so that we no longer build bondage. And the one thing in Karma Yogi we talked about in 2.40 was, even if you act as a Karma Yogi, even if you do a little bit, it burns the entire heap of karma you have. So there is no wrong way to do it. Even if you do a little bit, it gets added to your account. It's the example of a axe and a woodcutter. So your tree is the bondage. You have a forest full of trees, the past bondage, sanskaras that we are born with. The axe is karma yogi. As long as you're hitting the axe on the tree, every cut makes a difference, right? Similarly, every cut that we do, it makes a difference. And now we're going to learn is that axe is basically called equanimity. As long as we can be equanimous, and that's what we will read now, is we can rise above likes and dislikes. We approach our duty with a certain amount of dispassion towards its result, but do it because it has to be done with the right purpose and bhav, then that axe is going to get sharper and sharper and sharper, and we'll be cutting the tree to achieve our real purpose, which is self-realization. Yeah? So that's a quick summary of what we did in the last couple of classes. Gautam, would you like to read with us, please?
Sure.
Just start with connection, which is right before Shloka 45.
Okay. Discussing this important point, the Lord goes on to delineate the constituents of equanimity of intellect. Should I read the Shloka?
Yeah, repeat the shloka after me.
Mm-hmm.
Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha.
Traigunya Vishaya
Vedaha.
Vedaha.
Yeah. Similarly, in the second line, Nitya Sattvastho will be pronounced as Nitya Sattvastha. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Start again. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha.
Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha.
Nistragunyo Bhavarjuna.
Nitragunyo Bhavajana.
Nidvandho Nitya Sattvastho.
Nirdvanso Nitya Sattvastaha.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Niryoga Shema Atmavan.
Yeah. If you can read the italics.
Yep. The Vedas deal with three gunas of nature and their product, the world. Therefore, O Arjuna, attain liberation by freeing yourself from the pairs of opposites and from the desires of acquisition and preservation of worldly things. Be established firmly and with perfect control in purity and the self.
Yeah. So here we're going to read a bit about the constituents of equanimity, but I wanted to give you a quick example so you can visualize what equanimity is, right? Like imagine we're a boat in an ocean. So there are two ways the boat can be. One, the boat can be completely at the mercy of the ocean, which means depending on the wind, depending on the waves, the boat will go one way, the boat will go the other way. The boat will still keep moving. The boat will still be in action. The boat will still be very busy. But the boat is completely a victim to the ocean, right? And the other way the boat can be is it can have a sail and it can use the wind, the wave, the ocean to chart out a direction on which it wants to go, right? And that's what equanimity is. We already have and possess and use this tool as adults on a daily basis. When we've had 2 cups of ice cream and you're given a third, your equanimity comes in and says, no, that tastes really good, but I do know if I have it tomorrow morning, I will have an upset stomach, or tomorrow morning, like I will feel bad about it, right? So your discerning faculty of intellect always comes to a control or guide the mind in your decision making.
Mhm.
Now we're trying to understand from a spiritual perspective, how do we sharpen the equanimity and our intellect in a way using equanimity so that we get away from attachment towards our own desires and results, etc.
So equanimity is a quality of intellect. How should intellect be? An equanimous intellect. And now we will try and understand what are the constituents of such an equanimous intellect.
Yeah. Sorry, like I said, we don't have a helper today, so expect a lot of our 5-year-old coming in. Yeah. Gautam, please read.
Okay. Constituents of equanimity. Number one, liberation from the three gunas. All the objects of the world are products of the three basic gunas of nature. The Vedas throw complete light on the actions and interactions of the three gunas. So in the first line of the shloka, the Lord exhorts Arjuna to eschew worldliness by following the injunctions of the Vedas.
Yep. We talked about this a little bit in the last class, and I'll just touch upon it. But essentially, all this Maya that is there in the world, right? This unreal that we talk about. The unreal is basically everything that is changing. And in this world, everything is constantly changing. This entire Maya Jal that has been created in conjunction with the three gunas. And as long as we are in this body form, we will see the world through the three gunas, and we ourselves are made up of, in different proportion, the three gunas being Sat, Raj, and Tam, right? So depending on the proportion of the three gunas we have, that's how we will interact with the world, which is why twins born in the same family, having the same education, sometimes will grow up to be very different people, or they will perceive the same situation very differently. It's because of their predisposition, right? So the first constituent or role of equanimity is to go above these gunas, these natural tendencies, these natural primal nature that affects our world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Liberation from the pairs of opposites. Uh, Being products of the three gunas, worldly enjoyments are transient, and so they cannot be the means of liberation of the individualized self. So, the prime duty of a human being is to eschew the temptations of these enjoyments. Temptations arise from expectations of pleasures, but no worldly enjoyment can provide any pleasure. For to acquire them entails suffering, to preserve them entails worries, and their loss makes a person miserable. They're pleasurable in appearance only. Therefore, there can be no enduring happiness or unhappiness from them.
Yeah.
Whatever happiness is experienced would surely come to an end, and so would unhappiness. Getting rid of these feelings is to free oneself of pairs of opposites.
Yeah. So uh, the gunas that we have, all these gunas, they basically result in this Maya that is created. And through this world that we see, we tend to chase things in this world, saying, oh, I'm in this life, I want to acquire this. I want to get this sweet. I like this person, I don't like this person, right? And what we've realized is as long as we're chasing and making decisions based on the transient, we're constantly adding to our karmic baggage, right? And all of that karmic baggage will just result us in having a rebirth in different forms, right? So, and I know this sounds a bit lofty. And this is experienced on a regular basis. It's like Sunday, we enjoy our Saturday, Sunday weekend, but the second half of Sunday, we tend to get sad because Monday is coming up, right? You're actually still enjoying Sunday, but because of this entire the way the mind and the intellect works, you're actually getting sad because of the future, and you've ruined half your Sunday, or you're starting to get pressured, or you're feeling stressed. Monday morning meeting, what am I going to say? They're going to ask me about this project, it's not yet complete, and all that stress builds up, and you've gone away from the present, right? Similarly, you leave home to go on a vacation, 4 days on vacation, you feel great, and then the moment the last 2 days of vacation come, you're like, oh, I have to go back home, right? And as long as we're stuck in opposite, as long as we base our happiness on objects which are transient, we will constantly feel this pendulum in volley rather than actually enjoying what we have the when we have it, right? And to do that is to and the way to do it is to try and be equanimous. uh,
Sukh ki asha is the biggest source of dukh, and that is the truth. Sukh ki asha, the expectation of happiness, is the biggest source of sorrow. And so basically that means that we have to stop expecting happiness, or stop seeking happiness outside of us through the VVGP. The happiness is already inside of us. And it is only our antakaran, which is all, filled up with all the dust that we've always talked about, is why we are not experiencing happiness from within. And the whole purpose of reading Gita is to cleanse our antakaran so that we can stay in happiness. So you don't work for happiness. You have to be in happiness and work. So work from happiness, operate out of happiness, but not operate for happiness. Unfortunately, we are always working for happiness. And that is the reason why we are always going after the worldly enjoyments, because it feels as if, like, if I acquire this, I will become happy. If I get this promotion, I will be happy. If I have this child, I will be happy. If I have a house, I will be happy. But actually, if you think about all the times that we've done this in our lives, we become happy only when those things appear. In the entire experience of working towards that, because you're constantly consumed by that desire of getting that end goal, we are constantly harried, stressed, extraordinarily hard work, which is combined with worry. So the entire process of getting to it, we've not necessarily enjoyed it unless you are in equanimity. So that entire journey has been full of stress. You acquire it, there is this happiness. But that happiness doesn't come because you have acquired it. It is because actually something has been removed. That the toil that you had, the worry that you had to acquire it, that has been removed from our antakaran. And because of that removal, the inner happiness shines through. And so we are happy. And right after we have acquired it, after that, the worry begins that we have to preserve it. You don't want to lose it. And eventually, it is going to come to a pass. You will lose it. Anything in this world is transient, right? So you will lose it in some form or the other. It will go away. And in that moment of dissociation, you will feel sadness again. And that's why working for happiness by acquiring something is not the path to happiness.
The liberation of pair of opposites, the other way this is entrenched in our lives, and I've observed this with a lot of people, including myself, early on, was the words that we use. We are so casual about saying, "Oh, I hate this," "Oh, I hate soybean," or uh, "It's impossible. This is just impossible to do. It's impossible for you to do something," or "I cannot live without my morning cup of tea. I am a bad, like, if it's rainy, it really affects my mood." We say all of these things as lingo, and in Kalyug, it's almost accepted and expected as part of culture. It's a cool thing to say that you like something and you hate something and all of that. But all of this subtly is a reflection of our antakaran, of how easily attached we are to small things. So there is no point. I'm not trying to say don't enjoy your morning cup of coffee, but be mindful on how you talk about it. Be mindful internally as well as externally, because it's that's where that hidden snake just comes in and it makes you attached. And because tomorrow when you don't get that morning cup of coffee, that expectation, all of a sudden you will have a bad mood. It will spoil your entire day. And all of us know if you start the morning wrong, it kind of, the entire day kind of goes away in that same energy.
Yeah. So I think so pair of opposites is not just about happiness and unhappiness. It's about, it's not just about sorrow or sadness, but also about, like, heat and cold. Everything in this world has a dual nature. If it is in this world, everything is dual. So the idea is that we do not get attached to either of them. We don't get attached to sun. We don't get attached to rain. We don't get attached to happiness. We don't get attached to sorrowness. Anything that comes, let it pass. Experience it fully. Don't resist it either. So if you're feeling sad, you will feel sad. That's okay. Experience it, let it go. You have an experience that is like, you have your coffee, as Abhinav said, he's enjoying his morning cup of coffee. Enjoy it fully. Nobody is saying you shouldn't enjoy it. Fully enjoy it. Just don't get yourself attached to it so that tomorrow, if it isn't there, then you're feeling sad about it. No, it is here. I will enjoy it. I'll be happy. Tomorrow, if it is not there, I will still be happy. That is the context,
Yeah.
right? Because you are not happy because the coffee is there or not. If it is there, you will enjoy it, but that happiness doesn't come from that. Enjoyment can come from it, but not happiness. I will still be calm, I'll still be happy, I'll still be on my path of duty, irrespective of my VVGP around me. Vyakti, Vastu, Ghatna, Paristhiti. Right? This is for Archana. She's joining for the first time. So VVGP is everything around us, Archana. It's something that you will hear a lot. Vyakti, Vastu, Ghatna, Paristhiti. So people, objects with which we interact, circumstances, and events that happen. So we interact with our world through these four aspects. Everything falls under this. So it's important not to let these things affect us in either positive manner or negative manner. Now, very important, equanimity doesn't mean that you are going to be in a, like, it doesn't mean that, oh, there will be no excitement, right? Then people think of equanimity as somebody being completely disengaged. It doesn't mean disengaged. It's the opposite. In fact, you will be extraordinarily highly engaged in your activities. You will be extraordinarily happy and blissful in a state of equanimity. That is very important. It's not disengagement with work or your life. It isn't as if like you're just going to be like, okay, I will not react. I will not, like, irrespective of what happens,
Yeah.
I'll have the stone face. Actually, it is the opposite. Your engagement, if you act from equanimity, as we will discover along the way, is engagement of the highest quality, engagement of the highest order, and the happiness and the feelings inside of you are of the highest quality. It isn't absence, it is actually presence of the highest quality of happiness. And like your actions are going to be perfect. It's going to be way better than if you were acting out of that desire for achieving an outcome out of those actions.
So this is um, just a reminder that we talked about this example. Remember, this too shall pass, with that monk and the horses. That's the story that um, highlights beautifully what equanimity is. Has everyone heard the story? Yeah? No? Okay, so I'll repeat it for those who don't remember. So there was a Japanese monk, right? And he had a son, 18-year-old son, and he had a horse. Now, one day he woke up and his son had forgotten to lock the stable of the horse. The horse ran away. And the horse ran away, and everyone in the village came and said, "Oh my God, it's so bad, it's so sad. You only had one horse, that horse has run away." And he said, "It's okay, this too shall pass." Next day, the horse came back with two new horses. And everyone in the village came and said, "Oh my God, that's wonderful. You've like tripled your wealth. Now you have three horses. You can do so much more. This is just amazing." He's like, "This too shall pass." His son was training one of the new horses. And while training the horse basically fell on the son and he broke his leg. Everyone in the village came back and said, "Oh my God, this is terrible. Your son's got hurt. He won't be able to help you. All the work would have to be done by you." He's like, "Don't worry, this too shall pass." Then Japan went into war, and the army had come in to collect every able body to go into war. They collected all the boys except his son because his son had a broken leg. So everyone in the village came back and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Your son got saved. Otherwise, he'd have to go to war and his life would be at risk." And what did the monk say? "This too shall pass." And I think that example very beautifully captures not to get attached or swayed by the positive or the negative, because whatever has come is coming because of your prarabdha, and that will pass. It's coming as part of your destiny. That will pass. You have to just experience it. And there's only one way to experience it, is by being equanimous. And as we get, so there's this other example I want to share. It's crossing my mind now. It's with my art teacher. His name is Kumar. So two Saturdays ago, he shared a class. He shared an example about how he loves to eat jam sandwich. So he he said that today morning I had my favorite jam sandwich while preparing for the Saturday class. He just said that as part of some other example. So this Saturday, I sent him a message saying, I hope you're enjoying your jam sandwich and I hope Bhagwanji is blessing you with your favorite jam again, the smiley. And he's like, and he sent me a response saying, ha ha ha, it's actually the opposite. Today morning, we realized the bread got over at home and I have to go to drop one Ranveer off. So all I have is a bag of fruits and I'm standing in the sun eating that. He's like, this is, and then I'm like, oh, that's so bad. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, don't be. This is my prarat. Bhagwanji's uh, giving me a test to not be affected by my own desire of a jam sandwich. Now, that's a WhatsApp message between the two of us for 5 minutes. But it makes you realize that if you once you start implementing it, you're so quick to see unfortunate circumstances also as things that are coming as a blessing for you to work on your own desires and your own shortcomings, so to speak of.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a very small example, but basically the same concept. Like we have to start implementing the things in every small little thing, and you will start to experiencing larger gains coming out of this, right?
it's the entire thing with the sailboat. That you change the direction by a degree. So all of this sounds really good, but you implement even one small thing on a boat. You change your direction by a degree, a few hundred kilometers. It's reached north and south, right? So all the change we talk about here is not about making drastic changes. It's about becoming slightly more aware, slightly more conscious, slightly more mindful. But the result in our life we will see over a period of time will be monumental, right? All right, let's continue.
Okay. Being established in purity. Of the three gunas, the sattva guna is the purest and a constant practice to remain established. In it leads to the imperishable state of one's divinity. Contemplation of the self wards off the distracting influence of the three gunas on the intellect. For a fuller discussion of the three gunas, see commentary of Shloka 37 in chapter 3 and also chapter 14.
Continue.
Okay. Freedom from the sense of acquisition and preservation. To acquire what is needed is yoga, and to preserve it is shima. Even after getting rid of worldly enjoyments, the mind keeps dwelling on what is needed and on preserving what is acquired. Giving up a sense of possession and attachment leads to freedom from the sense of acquisition and preservation. The Lord provides the necessities for who serves Him desirelessly through unattached and rigorous actions.
Yeah. So I think freedom of acquisition and preservation we just Tuina just talked about, and she talked about it quite well. Um,
So there's so right in the middle of Gita, Shlok 9.22, Lord gives us the assurance that He takes care of our yogakshem. Yogakshem is yog and kshem. Yog means acquiring, acquiring something new that you need. Yog basically means connection. Okay, so acquiring something that you need is the yog, and kshem is preservation of what you have already acquired. So Lord gives us an assurance that if you follow my path, I will do the yogakshem for you. I will acquire and make sure that I deliver to you myself everything that you need for your life. And I will also preserve everything. So don't worry about acquisition and preservation of these worldly things. Now, again, we have to realize what are we going to acquire and what are we going to. So He will provide for us what we need and not what we desire, right? Desires have no end, but what we need, He shall always provide for us. Another thing to change our mind about is what we consider favorable and what we consider unfavorable in this. So when somebody reads this, they're like, okay, I want, like, 5 houses, I want so much of bank balance, all of that stuff, right? So then the question is that, will He really give you all of that just because you desire it? No, that's not how it works, right? He will give you whatever is for your ultimate benefit. And that is the prasad buddhi that we need to develop. that whatever comes, even if it is perceived as favorable or unfavorable, it is all for my ultimate benefit. And what is my ultimate benefit? My ultimate benefit is not acquisition of worldly things. My ultimate benefit is self-realization, is getting to God, getting to understand who He is and getting to understand who I am in reality. That is my ultimate benefit. So in this process, whatever is required for me, for my journey, I will get it. And and so he says that give this up. There are four purusharth of human life, right? There is there is Kam, Moksha, Dharma, and Arth, and they always go together. Dharma and Arth go together. We have to acquire Arth. We have to acquire economic means, but they must be done with the right way of doing it, with Dharma. Through our duties, we acquire Arth. And there are desires, but the desire should be to attain moksha. That so they always go together. So when we have desires, desire is good, but what do we desire for? Not for the worldly objects, but for Him. That is the ultimate desire. So he's saying if you think about these four things, actually your earth and your desire will be taken care of by me, because I take care of yogakshem. You focus on your duty and focus on moksha, focus on realization. If you focus on achieving self-realization through your duty, rest everything I will take care of. It is already provided for through your destiny. So don't waste your time getting on the hamster's wheel for acquisition of these worldly things. Another thing before this, he's saying being established in purity. What does it really mean? So there are three gunas, right? We understand that. All three gunas are extremely important. Please don't think sato gun is more important than the other two. We need all three of them. The thing is that what should be the purpose of doing an action. The purpose of doing an action should always be established in sato gun. And then if you're doing a tamasic activity like sleeping, or whether you're doing a rajasic activity like running your business, going to office and working, or cooking food at home, if your purpose for doing that activity is based in satogun, that means you're based in purity, then everything is good. And so before we start any activity, we should invoke the divinity and establish our purpose as to why we are doing it. I am going to cook food because it is my duty to cook food for my family. May I be blessed so that His nourishment comes into this food. May everyone who has been a part of this supply chain to get this food to me be blessed. And I'm grateful to everyone in the food chain who has helped me to see food on my table today. Having that intent, that bhav, that purpose, then establishes a rajasic activity of cooking food, even if it is, and whatever is this food being cooked, it gets blessed. And then my activity will not bind me to anything. So this is an example of how we start. So if we are going into a meeting, establish yourself again in the Satogun by saying, what is the purpose? My purpose is to do the best possible work for my company. My job right now is to do my best for this particular project. May I contribute in this meeting such that everyone who is in this meeting takes away something positive. May my contribution be positive. And sometimes that contribution may be in the form of just listening, right? But whatever is the contribution I create, may it be of the highest quality. As long as we behave with that activity, as long as our purpose is satoguni, then the activity doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay. So that is the concept. Like everything we do should be established, should start from Satogun. Everything, every day of our life. Nam Jap is one such tool that we use to remind ourselves of being in Satogun. Now, we can continue to do Nam Jap in a mechanical way as well, which is fine to begin with, but that is not the end goal of Nam Jap, for as an example. Nam Jap is a tool that at some point of time, after doing it consistently, it will start to become part of who I am and will start to remind me to be in Satogun. My prarabdha is to get angry quickly or get upset at something quickly. If I'm doing namja, as soon as I start to get upset or I get really upset, namjap is a tool for me to remind: Am I in satogun right now? Am I doing the right thing here by being upset? Or if Abhinav comes back to me and says that you are really being upset, and it is, can we talk about it? Instead of screaming back at him, it allows me to sit back and say, okay, I am definitely not in Satogun and I need to calm down and I need to, so I'll do whatever I need to do to, like, but basically it's a tool for me to establish, to remind myself that I'm not in Satogun. Right? So everything else that we talk about, rituals or whatever else we may talk about, everything end of the day is a tool. That's something to remember. They are not an end in themselves. And if they are not serving their purpose, then we need to question what we are doing. Yeah. Okay. You can go ahead.
Yep. With perfect control, as long as the intellect, the mind, and the senses are not kept under strict control, they lead to constant agitation and distraction. The senses and the mind are, in fact, the blessings of the Lord, but they work for the benefit of a person only when kept under strict control. With laxity of mind, take a path in the same manner, as a horse without reins takes the rider into a ditch. With reins under control, however, it enables the rider to reach the destination easily. This is what is meant by Atmavan here.
Yeah. Sorry, just one second. Okay. Okay. So okay. So yeah. So basically, continuing on this, I think this is fairly clear, right? Like we've talked about equanimity quite a bit now. Um, the next shlok Tuvina is to read, but ठीक है. I think kids got her. Um, Nena would like to read with me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Connection?
Read the connection.
Yeah. The Lord now describes what would be the attainment of such a person.
यावानर्थ उद्पाने sorry यावानर्थ उद्पाने
Yavanartha Udpane
सर्वत्र सपलुन्तोदके
Sarvatah
संपलुतोदके
Sampalutodake
तावानस्य वेषु वेदेषु
Tavana Sarveshu Vedeshu
ब्रह्माण्यस्य विजानतः
Brahmanasya Vijanatah.
Okay. You can read the italics.
Okay. A person has little need to reach out to a small reservoir if there is a flood of water all around him. To the same extent, a knower of ultimate reality would have little use for the Vedas.
Yeah. So I think this is similar to what Tuina was saying earlier, that while we are so steeped in sansar, we need crutches. We need symbols, right? That's why we have these symbols of God. That's why we have Nam Jap. That's why we have all the scriptures. Because this sansar is so beautiful, it's so glamorous that we can totally get swayed and lost in it. So where we are, we need this satsang. We need the Saturday Gita class. We need people around us who will establish us in Satagun, right? Uh, because they act as crutches and reminders for us to operate from the capital S self, from the higher consciousness, from our soul. If we don't have these reminders, we will just fully get swayed by our senses because the world is just too much glamour. The world is just beautifully designed, right? So, what this shloka is also saying is that once you know the truth, once you know the reality that you're not this body and I'm not Abhinav, I've just taken on this body like I've taken on this t shirt today, but the real me is the soul, then you wouldn't even need the books. You wouldn't need the Vedas, you wouldn't need scriptures, you wouldn't need anything because you've now become one with everything there is. Then, regardless of who is in front of you, you're not going to be, oh, I'm friends with this person because I went to school with him, but this person I just met in the bus who's a bit smelly, yeah, I don't want to talk to him. No, you'll just be friendly. Whoever comes to you for whatever, you will always approach it friendly. From duality, you will move to singularity. And singularity is where we can see that connection in all of us, the soul within all of us. Right?
Abhinav, just a question here. That when you say that, for example, Krishna is kind of I mean, he is an epitome of this quality that he sees everybody equally and as a soul. But like if you read Mahabharata and then you see that he's more biased towards Pandavas than the Kauravas, like, and he says that Duryodhan has these bad qualities, or Shakuni is not a good person, or this was a heinous act done by them. So, how do you justify, like, when you are in that state of mind, and in real life as well, we meet people who would, like, harm you more than give any benefits to your life, or knowingly or unknowingly, because of their selfish reasons or whatever it is. So, isn't it natural that you kind of classify people in good friends and bad people to stay away from? Like, how can you like see them all equally?
It's a fair question. I'll so two or three things. First, everything in the Mahabharata, every character there is a representation of a consciousness that exists within us. All right, it's just been glorified. That consciousness in that character, in the way the story is written, has just been glorified so that we relate to it. So Duryodhan, is for uh, as an example, uh, is a person who was ignorant, and he symbolizes ignorance because he had no, he was always stuck in mine and yours. I want more. Anybody who will help me that, I will like that person. Anyone who takes that away from me, I don't like that person. So he was so stemmed in ignorance that he was willing to do whatever it takes to acquire more. Right? So that's a representation of the ignorance that exists within us, where we also have this desire of wanting more, and that's just a different chetna or consciousness that we have. So Krishna representing or being favorable or unfavorable, the way I would see it is if is similar is if we adopt the right qualities in life, which is equanimity and which is doing things with purpose, Krishna will find us more favorable because we are going closer to the direction of the capital S self. So people who operate from the right purpose, do it with the right bhav, which is emotion and intention, you're automatically going towards your capital S self consciousness, which is why Krishna finds you favorable, because that's who he is, right? And people who operate not from there, he tends to be unfavorable because they're moving away. They're creating more karmic bondage so that they're moving. So he finds it tougher to reach out to them, right? So that's what it is in the story format. Uh, you may want to change your t-shirt. There's like blood on it.
Oh, is he okay? Like, did he get badly hurt.
I've been here. I have no idea, but he
Yeah.
seems. I mean, she's his mother. I'm sure she's taken care of him better than I could have. So I'm fine. Uh, the second part is in real life. No, yes, all of us have very different, uh, let's say, personalities and ways of being, but all of us have good and bad. They've, I mean, I don't know of anyone who's all evil. Firstly, even if that person is all evil, the fact that he's a human being, he has a soul. There is no question about that. It's
Yeah.
just that I'm not able to see that soul because it is masked by a lot of things I find unfavorable. So there is this quote, and I said it in the very first Gita class. I remember. Uh, it's 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 a quote by Christ, Jesus Christ. So I think all of us are fairly familiar with Christ's story and the crucifixion. And the
Yeah.
crucifixion was brutal, right? He was whipped, he was hit, he had broken bones, and he made him still hurting. Uh, so he had broken bones, and then they made him wear that, that crown that he's wearing on the cross. Is a
Mhm.
is also made of thorns, and it was like
Yeah.
pushed in, and he's bleeding. And they were made to give him, I think, 100 whips or 200 whips, some ridiculous number. And each whip would like cut open his skin on the back, which is why he's all broken. And while that person's being whipped, uh, what he said was, God, please forgive them because they don't know what they do. And when other people were saying, oh, by hit the Romans, hit this, hit that, he kept saying, no, no, it's absolutely okay. They're just lost and confused. They're not bad people. They're all sons of God. They're just making the wrong decisions. That's it. And of course, none of us have that perspective, right? And in that quote, I remember him saying, if you love only those who love you, then how valuable is your love? Love really has value if you can love someone who doesn't love you back. That's the true strength of your love. It's very easy to like people who are nice to you and be nice to them. It's very easy to be kind to people who are kind to you. But can you be kind to someone who's unkind to you? That's the real strength of you, right?
So I understand, the reaction part, like, you shouldn't react in an angry way or reciprocate in a negative manner, even if, the person is negative. But having said that, in life in general, like, for example, I mean, if you look at, like women in India, for example, like there's so many women who undergo the dowry system, and their life changes, and there's so many problems they face just because they succumb to the situation, either by their husband or the in-laws, and their life changes. So even I see women being very nice, and she's doing all that she can to make the family happy, or so. But in in turn, like, I feel that her life gets spoiled in just being nice to everybody,
Yeah.
like, for example. But what I saw in Mahabharat, like, the transformation happened when people got angry, like when Draupadi got angry. And then this Mahabharat happened, and then so, like, how does
So
Gita
many people
explain?
died, Anupama, because of it. When Draupadi got angry, okay, that's not a good sign. Anyway, so basically, these are the consciousness and characters that we are talking about, and the entire story is built to deliver the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, the whole story, the whole consciousness, the whole of the flow is defined so that the deepest meaning of Gita can be delivered. That's what I had been reading about and so on. So essentially, all this character definition and so on. So when you say Duryodhana, you get angry. Duchadana, you get angry because like they have pulled in Draupadi to the court, all that kind of thing, right? Like you immediately characterize that, okay, these are bad people, these are good people, all that. But the essence is Gita. So we wanted to deliver Gita. You want to give a strong story to it, and that is what has happened.
No, I understand the story. My point is that how do you react to such situation, unfavorable situation? Is it like you should always be positive, or I think the reaction can be negative as well?
So let me for the I can't think of another example, but I'll give you an example from our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have this. We had a baby like 5 years ago. Before we had a baby, we had this best friend couple in Singapore. I won't name them because the world is really small. But they're very anti-children, very anti-children. They don't. I mean, they're our age, but it is what it is. To a point where they would make a lot of snide remarks. And they would like say a lot of things which made every time we interacted with them after we got pregnant and after we had the baby, it left us irritated. We were like, oh my god, I really don't like them. Usne aisa kaisa keh diya? We should have said this, we should have said that. And that's when my Gita journey was just starting. And I remember asking our teacher that this is what is consistently happening and it's creating so much negative energy inside of us. And
Yeah.
so Kumar basically, I mean, what my thinking, the way it changed was, hey, I'm no one to judge them. They may say whatever they want about my kid. It makes no difference to me. It should make no difference to me. And it honestly makes no difference to my kid. He was 6 months old. But because every time I interact with them, I am left negative, I am not strong enough to deal with them. So we slowly kind of, they're still our friends. We still meet them once in a few months. We still go to their house. But we have, of course, reduced the interaction with them because we're not ready to deal with it. Now we've distanced ourselves, and the last year I've seen we've picked it back up slowly because now we've picked it back up in a way because we've become much stronger to set very clear boundaries. And it's not about being nice, not being nice, but it's about setting very clear boundaries. And we meet them in environments where it's comfortable for them. So we're not imposing our cranky child or whatever on them. And it's comfortable for us where we don't feel like, oh, we can't carry a kid along or we have to, like carry a helper and 15 other things to
Right.
manage their engagement. So everything is a kusang or a satsang. So kusang, so satsang is this people that elevate us to satagun, and kusang are people who leave us with negativity. And honestly, everything is a satsang. It just depends on ourself whether we're able to deal with that other person or not. So again, the example that I gave about Gandhi has stayed with me, right? Like
Mhm.
a man was really angry during partition, and he came up to him and he said, Gandhi, you're ruining the country. You're creating so much divide. Ye wo vagara vagara, and he spat on Gandhi's face. And
Mm.
if I were there, a person yells at me for 7 8 minutes and then spits on my face, I'm going to get provoked. There is no question about it. Gandhi took a handkerchief, he wiped his face, and he said, Chalo, at least ek bhai ne to gussa thoka, which basically means at least one of my brothers has spat out his anger. The fact that he still saw him as a brother, the fact that he could see that act as an act of him releasing his anger to coming back to his normal state shows how elevated his consciousness was. That he could see the soul and could see that this person is just operating from body consciousness. Okay. And that's the journey. That's part of what we have to grow into as we grow along.
So what I understand, that as an individual, I mean, the onus lies on me to how wrong or how negative I accept. That should not affect my positivity or my growth. And in turn, I should see other person with compassion as well, and not get angry and give the negative energy, given their behavior is negative. What I'm understanding, kind of.
In a way. So in a way, the only thing you can control, Anu, is the experience within you. And
Mm.
the moment your internal experience gets affected by external circumstance, then you know that's an area you'll have to work on. And just bring that to awareness. That, oh, this triggers me. This affects my equanimity. Ah, okay. Now let's become aware on how I'm going to deal with it.
It's okay, I'll come. We'll look at it. We'll have your ice cream. Yeah, I'll come to you.
Hey, if you want, you can stay with me.
Yeah. What?
If you
Sorry.
need to, you can stay with me.
He's actually fine. I
He's
need
fine.
you to bring this out in this context. The VVGP is a every VVGP is a open door to heaven. In this,
Why didn't you share it? I'll go.
share that with us.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's I think he got hurt. His tooth, his cut. He got. I have no idea. I have no idea how he fell in the house, man.
Can
5
you
years.
go check on him, please, if you don't
He's
mind?
fine. Tuina's gone. He's fine. Tuina's gone. Um, so yeah. So it's this entire thing, right? It's what Tuina was saying is this VVGP that we have. This Vyakti, Vastu, Ghatna, Paristiti. Is a way for us to actually interact with Bhagwanji. Because all of this is coming because of his Maya. All of this is coming. Every person that comes into our life, every object that comes, every situation that comes into our life is coming because of his Maya Jal. And it's either, every situation is either a blessing or a lesson. And if you think about it, every lesson you're supposed to learn is effectively a blessing as well. Because it's a lesson that you have to keep learning, or something you have to learn to grow out of, so that you can move closer towards him, right? And that's the entire objective. Cool. Should we continue reading, Nana?
Yeah. Okay. Vedas are only means to the supreme end, God realization. In this shloka, an important point has been explained. Attainment of the ultimate reality is the end result of knowledge of Vedas and other scriptures, as well as of righteous conduct and performance of religious practices. Once that realization is attained, nothing remains to be done. Giving an example, the Lord says that just as one who reaches a big tank full to the brim with water has no need of a small reservoir, in the same manner, once the ultimate reality is comprehended, there is no further use of the scriptural studies. It is necessary to attend an institute to acquire education, but once it is completed, there is no further need for attending the institution. It does not mean that the educational institution loses its importance. It is the institution which imparted education. In the same manner, after realization of the ultimate reality, there is no further need of the Vedas.
Yeah. So basically, once you know the real truth and you become the truth, actually, there is no such thing as knowing the truth. Knowing the truth basically means becoming the truth. And once you become the truth, you're living what the scriptures say. So the scripture is not something to study, it is something to live, right? Because the moment you start living it, you won't need it because you're living life by it. But very often we start looking at scriptures as something to study, learn, memorize, and we stop it at that level. But it's not for that. It's meant for implementing in our lives so that we can make a difference. And when we do, eventually, hopefully, we reach a state where we don't need it, right? Okay. Let's continue. Kay, would you like to read?
Sure.
If you can read the connection, please.
In the forthcoming shloka, the Lord sums up the total content of Karma Yoga.
Yeah. So this 2.47, right, is essentially a summary of what we need to be as karma yogis. So we're all karma yogis. This talks about how to live life as a karma yogi. So there is a very beautiful thing that is said is this is chapter 2, shlok 47. It should be lived 24 by 7. Because that is what a karma yogi should be. Right? So 2.47, always remember 24 by 7. If you're ever unsure of what to do, open 2.47, you'll get an answer. Okay. Uh, कर्मणेवाधिकारस्ते
कर्मणेवाधिकारस्ते
मा फलेषु कदाचन
मा फलेषु कदाचन
मा कर्म फले हेतु भ्रूमा
मा कर्मफले हेतु भूमा
ते संगोस्तव कर्मणि.
ते संगोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Thank you. If you can read the italics.
You are entitled to the right to perform actions only, but not all, but not at all to their outcome. Let not their likely outcome be the objective of your actions, nor may you have an attachment to inaction.
Yeah. So this is a very important shlok, and I think the first thing to talk about is we always say what is our human right, and that conversation now has become very large and very confused. In the Gita it says that your only right is your right to do the duty that you're meant to do. What happens as an outcome of doing that duty is not your right. A fruit of that duty is not your right? But later on in the Gita, what it says is, as long as you keep doing that duty, everything that you deserve will come your way. That's what Tulina was talking about earlier as well, is that Bhagwanji will make sure you will get what you need. But it's all about doing the duty first. And your only right is their right to do duty. And this is very easily seen in families. I have a fairly small family of like, my one brother, essentially, and parents. And it's so easy for us to build expectations with each other when we're living together because you're living 24/7. You're like, yeah, it's Ananya's job to fill the ice and cold water. And every time water wasn't cold, I would, or there was an empty bottle, I'd like yell at him, right? And it's so easy for expectations to seep in with people you're living and your family members. But the way to change it is the only thing that you can control is your duty. So your only right in family members is to give and to do duty. Everything that you receive back from them is your prarabdha, is something you have to experience to let go. It's past karma that is coming in, you have to let go if it's unfavorable. But for most of us, in fact, for all of us, we've received far more from our family than we can ever give, right? And we aim to give, we try and give, we try and support. But we wouldn't be here with this book in our hand, living all over the world like we are, if it wasn't for that family, right? Okay, please read.
The total content of Karma Yoga. In this shloka, the Lord declares a human being to be entitled to the right of performance of actions only. Thus, the word right connotes only the obligation to perform actions. It does not give to a person the freedom of an option to perform or not to perform the action. Being possessed of a body, a person is necessarily engaged in doing some action or the other at all times.
Yeah. So this is the entire example of a boat on an ocean, right? Even if the boat's doing nothing, it's constantly moving. Even if you're sitting in a chair doing nothing, your body is constantly in action. Your heart's pumping, your lungs are moving, your blood is flowing at like whatever ridiculous kilometers per hour within the body, your organs are functioning, you're constantly in action, right? Because as long as we have this body, we have this dynamism. The Rajagun is there, and the Rajagun is hyperactive within us, right? Yeah.
The only fruitful cause under this obligation to action is that the actions may be done for liberation and not for self-gratification, leading to endless bondage.
Yeah. You
The
can underline.
statement that a person is
So you can underline that, right? The only fruitful course under this obligation is action to karna hi hai. We have to do action. But can these actions be done for liberation rather than for self gratification, which leads to endless bondage? Right? And I think that's the big shift in the way we see the actions as karma yogi. Yeah.
the statement that a person is not entitled to the outcome of actions means that the performer of action cannot claim any entitlement to its outcome or to the manner in which the outcome will be forthcoming. Ordinarily, everyone desires either the enjoyment of the outcome of one's actions or an escape from it. But the actions yield some result or the other, whether one likes it or not. Therefore, performance of actions solely with an eye to receiving acclaim or material benefits is the result of ignorance only. And even if one succeeds in getting them, their enjoyment is bound to be transient. This indeterminate character of the outcome of actions makes it expected enjoyment highly doubtful.
Yeah. So I think this makes it quite clear, right? That if we do actions with an end outcome in mind, then yeah, we may achieve that outcome. But as Tuvina said, till we achieve that goal, we are in stress, because we have not reached that goal. And the moment you hit that goal, then you're like, you feel really happy, but then you're like, what next? So basically, you're being controlled by that goal. So I remember I was training for a marathon, a full marathon, and I started training for it in 2008. And how do you train for a marathon? You do 5Ks, you do 10Ks, you do 10, 15Ks, slowly keep increasing pace. I got injured in 2010, so I couldn't do it. So I restarted the whole process in 2011. 5Ks, 10Ks, 15Ks, 30Ks. In 2012 January, I signed up for a event, and in October and November the previous year, my injury came back. I was running 35 kilometers or 30 kilometers, and my knee used to hurt, and I was like, "Shit, I need to take a break." So I took a break for 4 to 6 weeks, wrapped it up, took care, went for it. Now this entire experience of for running a 42K for 4 years is a very noble experience, right? It's health, fitness, it's mind control, it's chasing with discipline, all of those things. But those 4 years were really stressful, lot of injury, lot of sacrifice that I made, my parents made, etc. I eventually ran that race regardless of the injury, and I remember I finished the 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 line because I was in so much pain. I thought the experience would be like one of accomplishment, of happiness, of joy. I crossed that finish line and I had tears pouring down. And I walked into the holding area and I was just like, everyone's really happy. Why am I crying? Like, and it's such a pure moment. You can't control anything. You can't fathom it. And later on, I realized I was crying purely out of relief that this goal I don't have to chase anymore. It's done. It was so exhausting mentally and physically. I was just like, I'm done. And I used to love running. And that experience of chasing a goal was so stressful. That relief that happened, that injury that happened, it took me almost 10 years. This is the first year I can say with hand on my heart, I'm enjoying running again. And this is the common misconception that we have in our uh, upbringing, that it's good to have goals, but it's not good for that goal to be all consuming, because then we'll just push ourselves, we'll put ourselves in so much stress, so much pressure, that it takes away from that entire purpose of that goal, which is to become better versions of ourselves. right? So that's why chasing any material benefit, chasing anything that is favorable, it will get you there. You will work really hard, you will get it, and you'll feel really great that you have it. That will always be transient. Instead, can we have another way of being where we're always in that state of happiness? And that's the conversation, right? Yeah, okay, continue reading, please.
Developing the subject further, the Lord says, while commencing the performance of any action, its expected outcome cannot be held as an objective. The decision to perform an action can only be based on the ground that it constitutes an essential duty. Along with this, he cautions against non-performance of action, for there may be a reluctance for performing essential duties on the ground that there is no entitlement for enjoyment of the outcome. Such a non-performance of duties suffers from another risk. If the action is not performed, the outcome of non-performance would have to be suffered. Therefore, it is necessary to perform actions which constitute essential duties to the extent of one's capability. But there can be no exception of any kind from their outcome which is indeterminate and uncertain. Actions with results are best dedicated to the Lord. Their outcome can be offered mentally to the Lord as flowers are offered to a deity in a temple. This sentiment will enable the body to be turned into a temple of the Lord and the actions into flowers of worship to the Lord. It is then that all work becomes worship.
Yeah.
It is,
Go on, go on.
it is clear that the desires of liberation is not a worldly desire at all. In fact, it puts an end to all worldly desires.
Yeah. So this is a big point, right? Inaction. So you're like, okay, if I'm getting everything in my life because it's in my destiny, and I'm going to get it one way or the other, uh, and if I don't get any results from my action, or if that's not guaranteed, why do I need to work? I may as well just sit and chill, no? Why do I have to work? And out here, he makes it really clear that every inaction also has a consequence. So every action has a consequence, but the inaction will also have a consequence. So not doing your duty will also create bondage. It will also create a consequence because you not doing it means somebody else will have to take that on and they will do it.
And also because inaction in physical sense, that you're just sitting on a sofa and not doing an action, does not constitute inaction. That inaction is also an action. It's a choice you have made. So the choice is not between whether you will do an action or not do an action. You will do an action even if you are physically sitting still, that still is constituting an action. It's very important to remember. You do not, as long as you're in this world, you do not have the option of opting out of action. The only real, um, the only real option you have is the bhav that you bring to that action. The bhav with which you actually do an action is the only real freedom that you have. You may think in a lot of ways that you are doing an action out of a will, out of a like, oh, I want to do it, hence I'm doing it. But when we go to chapter 14, you will read a lot more about gunas, and then you'll realize that gunas will impel you to an action, even if it feels as if like you are doing it out of your own free will, whether it's an action or a non-action. Your gunas are actually impelling you to be a certain way or do certain things. And that is where free will has to come into play, where you have to start associating yourself with duty, with your the right bhav, the right purpose, and then doing on what you anyway will be doing.
So, Tuhina, sorry, I asked so many questions. When you say that if I'm doing nothing, suppose, because as wives we have all the comfort in terms of we are not the breadwinner of the family, so we have the food, we have kids. So suppose I don't do anything, like I don't have any goals, I just, my only duty is to kind of see that children are have eaten food, and husband has eaten food, and they are like happy kind of. So how does that imply in real life example that I am not doing any action in terms of the rest of the day. Like I don't have any personal goals. So what I have is just the family goal. That's it.
So, so first of all, you are in action all the time. A housewife does a lot of work, which may not necessarily be translated into GDP, but that's the problem on the economic side of things, right? It doesn't take away from the fact that you actually do a lot of work and you create a lot of value for the society. We have read at one point of time in chapter 2, in chapter 1 in Arjun Vishad Yog, where he was talking about the value that women of the house bring. They are the ones who carry culture forward for the family, right? In the society. So they literally carry the burden of culture, the burden of knowledge, the burden of virtues in the society. Because they are the ones who are with the children. So you first of all have goals, whether that goal is of a material lofty economic means of having a career goal or not, that
No,
doesn't mean.
what I meant, not like, suppose I am not talking about that. Even if you are raising kids with a specific goals, that you have to work towards it. Like, you have to learn how to do the right child upbringing or to educate them. So
Yeah.
that is a work. But what I'm talking about, suppose I don't do in that context. I just do the bare minimum.
So everyone has a duty, right? Now, as a parent, whether you are a woman or a husband, like both of you have the duty towards your children. And
Yeah,
if we are not fulfilling our duty to the children, then we are not doing our work. Okay, we are failing in our job as parents. And that duty is the duty to our children is not just to make sure that food is on the table or that they get admitted to a school and their homework is done. It is
yeah.
at a much deeper level. The duty
Mm.
of children is to ensure that their best self gets to express itself, and that's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. So I don't do that. Like, I just do the bare minimum. So what is the consequence of that inaction basically?
So, Anu, let me just rephrase this. I mean, add on to this, right? Each person has their own duty to do, and all of us, I think, in this call are parents. So, yeah, we all will do our duty as parents. The thing with parenting and with child upbringing is there is no perfection. So, there is no perfect parent, there is no perfect child because we're all humans. As long as we're human form, we are imperfect. Each one does it based on their own understanding and upbringing, and whatever they're doing is good enough.
Yeah.
As a person, if you are interacting with your child and it leaves you like satisfied that, oh, I'm actually happy interacting with them to this extent. I tried teaching him math, but he doesn't like math, and I'm okay with it. That's it's okay. You don't have to, everything is good enough. You just need to keep working on your own self. Moment you feel, oh, I don't want to teach him math because it irritates me and I don't have the patience, that's an issue. Then you're like, as a karma yogi, I need to work on my patience because Bhagwanji is giving me this as a prarabh, as a situation to work on my patience, to do my duty. So I will go back to it. It's about bringing the awareness within you on where you feel most satisfied because eventually there is no perfection to chase here,
Yeah.
but each one will do it based on their own sanskars,
Mm.
based on their own natural predisposition, and whatever the child will take out of it based on living with us for 20 years will be his own destiny, and what he makes out of it will be his own destiny, right?
Okay.
uh, does it make sense?
Yeah, so I understand, like it's up to you to for the self realization. So I think the inaction would lead to not realizing yourself. So only when you are like working towards some specific thing, either like teaching kids or working in giving your full to whatever you are doing at any point in time, not necessarily financial gains, but overall thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever we are supposed to do in that moment, as long as we are giving it our best, like and whenever we interact with the VVGP around us, We view them as God. That is our God, right? It isn't like going to temple and praying to God is not God. We will learn that, right? This world is we have to bring Bhagwan into the world around us. When I'm interacting with my child, he is he is he is God. He's he also has Jivatma inside of him, right? When we do Namaste, what we are basically doing is the Krishna inside of me is doing Naman to Krishna inside of you. So we bow to the Lord inside of the other person. That is what is Naman, Namaste. And that's how you have to treat every single person, your child, your spouse, your parents, your siblings, your friends. Everyone is here on the path to help us learn better. So if our child is a certain way and it brings a certain part of us out, it is for us to learn from that as well. Everyone is here. And when we start to uh, take every duty that way, take every activity that way, however mundane it may be, then we are doing our very best. So if there is a person whose job is to clean the house or clean the office, if he is giving his all and he's doing it with the right bhav, whether somebody is looking or not, I am supposed to keep this place clean, I'm supposed to sweep it, and he is doing it with that bhav. He's not doing it to show the boss whether he's cleaning or not. He does it irrespective. Then he is doing God's work. So it doesn't matter what activity you may be doing, howsoever mundane it may seem. It is the bhav, the purpose with which we are doing it, and how we do it when no one else is watching. Very, very important. If we are doing it for someone else's praise or not, then we have to ask ourselves, the purpose is not to please God. It is not because it's our duty. Then the purpose is something else. It's worldly in nature.
And as long as we have the right bhav and purpose, our kids will pick up on it. Yeah. Kids are very quick to know when you're sitting with them, but you're not spending time with them. When they're trying to show you something, but you're looking in your phone, किस किसी का message भी आ गया है. Kids are very quick. Papa, put the phone down. We're not looking. Papa, put the phone down. Now, if he says it 2 times and I don't put it in my pocket to give him full attention, that's on me. That's because my bhav is not correct. Why am I sitting there then if I'm not wanting to spend time with him? And but if I do that enough, then I know unconsciously or consciously he's going to pick up on it, on how to respect and value people as well. Because he
Basically, you be in the moment with full focus and be centered in the moment and give your best with the right bhav to it. Whatever you are doing, that's the and not doing that is inaction, I guess.
correct.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. Cool.
Someone else was asking something. Smita, you had a question?
No, no, I was also trying to relate this to inaction is like tamasic activity, right? Like not doing something. So it's a tamasic gun, right? So that itself will lead to the consequence. Isn't it also the case?
Yeah.
Yes.
And also parenting, I think it's a very double-edged sword. Too much involvement, too much telling also gets to, trying to protect them always also doesn't help. So I think it's a lot of learning there, and each individual. I have 2 kids, and both have to be dealt very differently. One, I have to let it be. The other, I can get involved. So I think it's very, but yeah, throughout the process, some action and some bhav needs to be there all the time. One would think that it is enough, one would think it is not enough. So that's their way of deciphering and looking at things.
So I'll add on to it. One may think it's enough, one may not think it's enough, but both know you're available.
Hmm.
That is where the bhav comes in, right? That both know you're available. It's not as if you don't care, you're not available. There is this beautiful poem. I'm going to share this with you. Uh, it's written by a person named Khalil Gibran. Have you?
Yeah.
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 A poem on
Let there be space
the
in
prophet.
togetherness.
Yeah. So there he's written on many things. So there's one page on children, and
Ah,
it's absolutely beautiful. They
okay. All right.
basically come through you, but not from you.
Right.
They're Bhagwanji's soul. They're coming through you. And you may love them, but you may not teach them because their future will be something you can't even fathom. Like our parents couldn't train us for a world with internet and computers or control that creation. No, the only thing we can do, like Luna said, is create that loving environment where they can
Absolutely.
get a chance to express themselves. Cool. All right, Kay, I believe you're doing the closing shlokas.
Yes,
Would you like to do it individually or would you like to follow?
I think I can do individually.
All right, lovely.
Om Sarvesham Sastirvavatu Sarvesham Shantirvavatu Sarvesham Punam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Bhaveet Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishistate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
The three Oms. Yeah. That was beautifully done, Kay. I can see that you've practiced
Thank you.
quite a bit. You've put in a lot of effort on the
Thanks.
pronunciation, and it was
Thank-
rolling off your tongue. That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
you don't even speak Hindi, no?
No, I don't.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Apart from a
Thank
couple
you.
of places, your pronunciation was spot on. So that was really well done.
thanks everyone. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a happy Sunday.
Narayan, have a happy Sunday, and we'll have a great week ahead.
And I hope Vedant gets
Thank-
well. I mean, he
Yeah.
feels better soon.
Yes,
It's fine.
What happened? Do you want to share what happened?
Yeah, he just fell off the sofa and he hit his
Oh.
so yeah, so like his upper gum and the lower lip that got cut. There was a
Oh
little,
my.
so he was like, he just got scared when looking at the blood.
So it's the blood that probably surprised him. His tooth broke. It's fine.
It's fine.
Firstly, how do you fall sitting on a sofa? Like some pieces on this.
No, he fell because he was doing his antics on the sofa. So he's fine now. He's fine.
Okay, excellent.
He's good.
Hopefully, it doesn't fall again next week for the ice cream. All right, guys. Have a good week.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Dad. आप हो?
Yeah.
अरे वीडियो चालू कर लो. वीडियो चालू कर
चालू
लो.
कर दीजिए. ऋषभ सिंह नहीं आए फिर से. ऋषभ सिंह को कॉल करना पड़ेगा.
Dad, वीडियो चालू कर लो. Are you there?
Yeah.
Can you switch on the video? Do you know how?
Yeah, I can see you.
नहीं नहीं आपका वीडियो आपका वीडियो.
We can't see.
एक मिनट में मेरा वीडियो गया कहाँ यार ये रहा इधर. Can you see me?
No,
Not yet. There is this video icon नीचे जहाँ स्पीकिंग का आइकॉन होता है उसके पास में माइक वाला आइकॉन एक कैमरा वाला आइकॉन है वो उस पे
वही तो नहीं मिल रहा मुझे ये.
हाँ नीचे करेक्ट.
Yeah.
Hi.
Perfect.
आप कहाँ हो? गुड़गांव की हिसार? हिसार.
हाँ हिसार में बेटा. I came on 24th.
ओह ओके ओके 4 दिन पहले.
तब वापस आ गए.
Yeah. On 24th I came here in the evening.
कल अलका
And
मम्मा से
since
बात
then I'm here. Huh?
कल अलका मॉम से बात कर रहे थे. And
हाँ.
he was like बलजीत से बात करके बहुत अच्छा लगा. वो इतने खुश लग रहे थे गुड़गांव में ये वो लाइक, और
बस
आपने
ठीक है।
ज्यादा वहां पे बोल दिया हाँ हाँ मैं तो यहीं आना चाहता हूँ, ये सब, so she was very happy.
नहीं वो तो करना ही है ना बेटा, बस अब इसको वाइंड अप कर रहे हैं जरा धीरे धीरे।
Find a buyer?
No, now the first thing it has to be transferred
Oh, transfer.
because it is on mom's name, and after that I have to take no objection certificate from both the sisters. Then only you can sell it, na?
आपने पापा आपको दांत का ही ठीक कराना है अपना?
हाँ अभी मैं मंडे से शुरू कर रहा हूँ ये सब काम।
हाँ हाँ, you have to go to the dentist.
या
ठीक है। और how was your this thing अभी इसका घर का अभी क्या चले, कितना टाइम लगेगा आपको ये सब क्लोज अप करने में?
यार कुछ पता नहीं है इसमें कितना टाइम लग जाएगा, ये हुड्डा के काम ऐसे ही होते हैं। तो उसके मैं आई विल स्टार्ट द प्रोसेस एंड देन आई विल प्रोसीड टू सिकंदराबाद फॉर फ्यू डेज, देन आई विल कम बैक। ठीक है ना?
Very nice. Yeah, you should go to सिकंदराबाद. आपने बट जो अपना नो ऑब्जेक्शन सर्टिफिकेट लेना है वो ले लिया उन दोनों से, दोनों बुआ जी से?
नहीं अभी नहीं लिया है उनसे, उनसे बात करनी है। सुनीता से बात हो गई, उसने कहा कभी भी ले लेना, मुझे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है।
अच्छा चलो।
तो वो हाँ अभी कांता से बात होनी है। कांता जी तो जो है हवा में रहती है आजकल। उसने अभी
conversation at least, वरना वो because Kanta Bua is going to probably create problems also for you, know, so
वो जो भी होगा वो हो जाएगा यार, उसमें क्या है, अपने शेयर मांगेगी ले ले भाई।
correct, but just
अपने
have a
को
conversation with her, that's important.
रीजन इज शी वाज इन आसाम में ना, उसके पास प्रीति के पास गई थी। नाउ शी इज इन दिल्ली, शी हैज परचेज्ड अ फ्लैट देयर द्वारका की तरफ। तो अभी उसमें जो है वो कांटेक्ट वगैरह कर रही है कि भाई वुड वर्क्स वगैरह कराना है। तो उससे ऐसे कोई खास बात हो नहीं पाई है। आई विल डू दैट। ठीक है।
Yeah.
अपने को क्या दिक्कत है यार, उसने लेना है जो ले ले, नहीं लेना है मत ले। लेकिन वो तो परमिशन तो उसको देना ही पड़ेगा ना मुझे, एफिडेविट तो, कि भाई यू कैन सेल इट। सेल के बाद जो है शी कैन टेक हर शेयर। ठीक है ना? दैट इज देयर।
काम करा रहे थे उसका क्या सीन है?
हैं?
काम जो करा रहे थे घर में
वो छोड़ रखा है बीच में ही। तुम्हारी मम्मा और तुम्हारे ब्रदर दे आर नॉट टेकिंग फेवर। ठीक है भाई, नहीं है।
ओके, तो अब आप वो नहीं करा रहे?
आई एम सेइंग कि व्हेन यू डू इट बेटा, राम राम बेटा, कर ले जरा काम। ऐसा है बेटा, इफ यू डू इट, it is the get up of the house which gets you the pay. If you do it, you get pay. That's all. ठीक है यार, मुझे क्या करना है? They are not happy. Why should I unnecessarily take the load on me? ठीक है? That is that. और इसको वेदांत को क्या हो गया? कैसे लगी इसको चोट?
अरे रोज अभी हम लोगों ने नया सोफा खरीदा है, मैं आपको सोफा दिखाऊंगी अभी। तो ये ना उसके ऊपर चढ़ के मिलता है ना, ऊपर से नीचे कूदूंगा, ये करूंगा वो करूंगा। उसको कितनी बार बोल लिया कि ऊपर मत चढ़ना, तुम नीचे गिरो। तो ये कुछ कर रहा होगा उसी के ऊपर और उधर से नीचे गिरा तो मुंह पर गिरा। तो ये जो दांत है सामने, ये यहाँ पर क्या, तो यहाँ पे ऊपर का जो पूरा गम है वो टूट गया, इसका कट गया। तो यहाँ पर खून आ रहा है उसको, और उसने यहाँ पे काट लिया अपना जीभ से, होठ नीचे से 3 जगहों पे उसके दो छोटे कट है। तो यहाँ ऊपर से भी खून था, नीचे से भी खून था। तो वो खून बहुत निकल रहा था इसको, तो उसको देखकर इसको भया हो गया। अभी वो को खैर इसका मुंह धुलवा दिया, उसको नहला दिया और आइसक्रीम खिला दिया, तो खून तो निकलना बंद हो गया है। जस्ट दैट कि अभी दर्द तो है, तो खाना वाना नहीं खा पाएगा अभी थोड़ी देर के लिए। हाँ,
पेन
तो
होगा,
बस
पेन होगा।
थोड़ा वो मिल्क शेक टाइप कुछ पीता रहेगा थोड़ा टाइम के लिए, उसके बाद आई थिंक शाम तक ही शुड बी एबल टू ईट फूड।
शाम तक ठीक हो जाएगा वो।
हाँ, ऑलरेडी
शाम तक ठीक हो जाएगा। अभी उसको मिल्क शेक, आइसक्रीम, मिल्क शेक, ये दो कोल्ड थिंग्स।
उप्स, ये सब रिकॉर्डिंग चल रही है।